Hello and welcome to Fairbanks Year Round, a show about Fairbanks, the people in it, and anybody who has something interesting to say about the area. So we have a very special guest, Wendy Boger. Yes, with the bun on the run.
Yes.
Thanks for coming out.
Yes.
Yeah. So what got you into Fairbanks? I know nothing about you. A few of my past guests, I've had a little bit of backstory, but this is kind of fun. So were you born and raised here?
Yes, I am a Fairbanks born and raised. Most of my childhood, my dad was a teacher in the Villages. So we were always based here in the summer. And then for when I was a baby to fourth grade, we would go out to a village for a school year, and it was always a different one. So there's a lot of moving around.
Yeah. How was that lifestyle? Like living out in the village? I know you're young, but
yeah, it was interesting. I think that I was actually talking to a friend about this last week about childhood amnesia and memories and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of childhood memories because we moved every year. So it's how you form memories if it's something more novel, if everything's very routine, you're more likely to forget things.
It just runs together.
So yeah, I feel like I have a lot of memories, or at least glimpses of my young babyhood.
Yeah.
Living out in the Villages, and we were in Iliamna Lake, which was a gorgeous area. That's the No Pebble Mine.
Oh, okay.
That's the area where they're thinking about that stuff. But it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And then my dad tried to retire. We lived in Nome for a year when I was in first grade.
Okay.
So I think that was the year, or one of the years, that Jeff King won the Iditarod, which
that's awesome.
The Iditarod is finishing soon.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So I remember that. And then we went to Delta for a year, back to the road system, and then Fairbanks.
Back to the road system.
I've been here ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so if you don't know about Alaska, I guess there's a lot of what we call the villages are places that are only accessible either by boat or plane, pretty much.
Exactly.
So was it tough at all at that age? And the reason I ask is, so I used to work for the school district. I remember talking to a teacher who taught in the villages, and he, which it didn't seem to bother him too much, but he was pretty well hated there, just because he was white, by his opinion, at least, him telling me this. Again, he loved dog sledding, and it was the perfect life for him. And he had thick skins. He's like, that didn't really bother me. I just did my job, you know? But did you, I know you were young. Did you experience any of that, or was it?
Well, yes and no. I remember my parents said that they, in Nome, pulled us out of the public school and put us in the private school there because there was a lot of bullying happening. But I don't really remember that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Well, I think my sister's older than me, and I think she maybe remembers more of that. But I think in terms of being accepted into the community, it really depends on the community you're in. There's a lot of variation.
Oh, for sure.
Throughout Alaska. And there's some really amazing communities out there.
Absolutely.
My mom came up as a Jesuit volunteer in the 70s, I think. And then my dad started teaching in the 70s, and he loved it. He was
oh, good.
Absolutely enamored with Alaska and the culture and everything. And he came at it with this perspective of just wanting to know more, learn more, and be a part of the community. So I think that helped him a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that the placements that he got were very fortunate for him too.
Awesome.
So,
and what was the population size of a lot of these villages?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know that Nome was kind of big city compared to a lot of the other places.
Yeah.
But we were in some really small places, near not on the Aleutians, but near the base of the peninsula towards the Aleutians. There was a town we were in called Chignik Lake, and I'm pretty sure that was tiny.
Yeah.
And Pedro Bay was on Lake Iliamna, also small, but I don't know, maybe 100, 200.
Yeah. I think that was the point I was trying to make. When people think tiny, sometimes they're thinking a town of 10,000, 20,000, but it's we're talking, hundreds of people. You literally know everybody if you're in the area. So it's a very different, I imagine, I've never lived there, but from what I've heard, a very different way of living. I did my only real foray into that is we did a hunt down in Kodiak, and we stopped at Old Harbor, that was really wild for me to see. They picked us up like in this old pickup truck. I'm like, are you getting vehicles here? Like, we got to boat them in.
Yeah.
You know,
everything's
and
barged in.
Yeah. I was like, what do you do? And they're like, well, we clean fish for tourists. And I was like, well, what do you do in the winter? I don't know. Just hang out. It was a very, very different way of life for sure. So what ended up bringing you guys to Fairbanks then after all that?
So we'd always spent the summers in Fairbanks, according to my parents. I think my dad and my mom both being more like bush people, kind of. They liked Fairbanks more than Anchorage.
Yeah.
And my dad also originally the first way he came up to Alaska was as a canoe guide.
Oh.
So Fairbanks on the river, lots of rivers.
Yeah.
He loves getting out there canoeing. Yeah. So I think that was kind of the draw for Fairbanks.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And you talked about his perspective coming up, which it sounds like of his own free will, which is great. But there's a lot of people, either as kids or with the military that are, don't really have much of a say, let's say, coming to Fairbanks. And the perspective can be very different because obviously, we've talked about this a million times, we do have harsh weather. We have short days in the winter. And those things that a lot of people can see is only negative. So coming in with a perspective of learning about Alaska and wanting to do involve yourself as much as possible, I think can give you a much more positive outlook on the whole.
Yeah, definitely.
Whole diddly-whopper.
And I think especially like back then when he was younger, he was much more of a like sufferfest adventure type of person. So it's like him a that lot. Kind of like challenge, I think.
We should have had him on.
People love Fairbanks. Oh yeah, you should have him on. He'll talk your ear off.
That'd be awesome for sure.
But yeah, so I think Fairbanks is it's funny because I talk to people about this, like the types of people that are in Fairbanks either love it, like they came here because they are enamored, they're in love, they're just like, this is the most magical place.
Yeah.
They grew up here, which means they could love it, or they grew up here and they just never left and they hate it.
Yeah.
Or they're like forced to be here via the military or like jobs or like other things. And it can be this very like black and white kind of situation where people like either love it or they hate it. And there doesn't really seem to be much like in between.
Oh, for sure.
And like when you grew up here, because that's kind of how I was, like I grew up here and so I just never knew anything else and was like, oh yeah, this is just Fairbanks. And I didn't really like appreciate it necessarily. It was just kind of my life.
Right.
And then I left for college and was like, wow, Alaska really is different.
There's a draw. Like it brings even people, I think, that leave and think to themselves or even say out loud, I'm never coming back here. Like, thank God I'm getting out of here. There's this, and we see it's like this boomerang and people get drawn back in because it is, for all the negatives that you see. And again, you change throughout your life. You start to notice these, in my opinion, positives that way outweigh the negatives. Yeah. And again, some people do move away and stay away, and that's fine. You can love and live wherever you like. Yeah. Totally fine. But it was kind of funny. It reminds me, so when I do these podcasts, I'll cut little clips out of, whatever, when we're talking about a topic. And I was jokingly saying that, hey, not really, like I really do love Fairbanks. I was like, hey, Fairbanks is the greatest town in the world kind of thing. And the comments I got on it were pretty hilarious. Most of them were like, there was a few from Anchorage. They're like, the only reason, the only reason to go to Fairbanks is, I forget what it was. Oh, you're running away from the law. It's only felons up here. And it's like, well, we may have a few. But then there's other people who like, oh, I moved away. I miss it so much. I got to come back. So just like you're saying, like it was back and forth. There was none of the like, yeah, it was okay. It was either like, we really like this or we really don't like this. So it makes a big split. But so anyway, so you moved to Fairbanks. How old were you at that time?
When we fully settled here, I was in third grade.
And you
forget how old that is.
you left for college, which is funny you say that because a lot of people do that. We left for 6 years. I'm looking at my wife. And I left and I pretty much love wherever I live. So it was not like, oh, I hate Fairbanks, but we had a different opportunity somewhere else. And then when the time came and we did come back, I was like, oh my God, like again, you just realize all these things that take a higher priority. I don't know, in my life now. And the people, the number one thing I notice is, and we moved to Arkansas, and I love Arkansas as well.
I've never been there.
Most people, it's not like a well-touristed area, I'll say that. But it's like a really cool spot. that most people don't know about. Like it's cheap to live there. It's the weather, like 9 months of the year is nice. It gets too hot in the summer is like my only complaint for like 3 months. But other than that, like it's got a lot of things going for it. And we come back here and I notice like my friend count, you can say, just when like it's just like I totally jive with the people here for whatever reason. You know, it attracts a certain type of person. I don't know what it is, but there are just so many more people. I feel like when I came back, that's like, hey, we get along really well and we're friends or, you know, whatever. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. But I think Fairbanks community is such a huge part of surviving in Fairbanks. Like if you come here and you don't make friends, you're probably not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Especially in the like deep, dark cold of winter. It's like you need kind of like a crew to keep you
and that's
going.
That's really what this podcast is about as well. And I know it's digital. I know whoever's watching or listening to this is not like here in the table with us, but it's showing you real people in the community, which is great. Their businesses, the events that we got going on to get more integrated, because anywhere you live, really, I just heard this study that weather has basically no bearing on your happiness. And a lot of people are moving around based on weather. Like it's almost, I feel like, at least for Fairbanks, you're thinking, I want to go somewhere warmer. And it's like, well, that's great, but just know it probably has no bearing on how happy you're going to be. However, one thing that does, among other things, is how many close friends you have and how much family you are close with and you get to hang out with a lot. So for me, this is, there's a show. Do you know Conan O'Brien?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Yeah.
This is like an undercover way of me doing that same thing too. Getting to meet people is a ton of fun and having a good reason to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you moved here, you stuck around, and then we'll fast forward a little bit unless you have something real interesting to Bun on the Run.
To the Bun.
Yeah.
Well, it all kind of ties in with the same timeline. So when I was 14, my parents are, they're older parents, so they're very old school in some ways. So they're like, you're old enough to get a job. So in the summers, like, once we turned 14, they very much encourage us to go get a summer job in between school. And I had a friend and her parents were friends with the ladies who owned the Bun at that time.
Oh, okay.
And so she was like their neighbor or something. But so they had been like, hey, does your daughter want to work at the Bun? But she was going to work at Hot Licks. She'd already gotten her summer job. So she told me about it. She was like, hey, there's this place. And
fortuitous.
I had always been sugar obsessed as a child. And my mom is a huge, especially growing up in the villages, it's like we're making everything from scratch, right?
Yeah.
So I'd always been in the kitchen with her making cookies and everything. And so hearing that there was like a little bakery in a trailer opportunity for like summertime hangout work, I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. So when I was 14, I got my first summer job at the Bun on the Run.
Wow. Yeah. This is awesome.
And so then I worked there every summer.
So how long has the Bun on the Run been going? Like
the Bun started in 1987.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't
by
realize that. Okay.
Gretchen and Ingrid Herring.
I thought you were a little young, but now I know you're.
I'm actually 400 years old.
You've been here a long time.
Yeah. So the Bun is older than I am.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So two sisters started it out and they ran it for, I want to say it was 17 years. So Gretchen and Ingrid, and they're still around town. They're Fairbanks, people. And so they ran it, they started it, and then once they were done, ready to retire, they sold it to this lady, Ursula, and her granddaughters, Gabby and Cassie. And that was the crew I first started working for. And then they had it for, I kind of get my timelines mixed up. It was like somewhere between 3 and 5 years.
Yeah, that's all right.
And then they sold it to Summer and Liz, who are also Fairbanks girls. I think they both grew up here. They're childhood friends. And so I started working there when I was 14 for Ursula, Gabby, and Cassie. And I was just kind of the little sandwich girl making sandwiches. And then all the way through high school. And I think maybe it was my senior year of high school or junior year. At some point in there, Summer and Liz bought it from the other ladies. And I'd been around long enough. They were like, hey, you have any interest in baking the bread every morning instead of just doing sandwiches? And I'm like, heck yeah.
When do you have to wake up to bake bread?
The bread shift at that time, I think it started at 6 a.m.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, it was like the way they had it set up is they would make the sourdough that would be already ready for me in the morning because it would be made the night before, left to ferment, you know.
Right.
And then I would come in and mix the whole wheat. And then the way we do bread for the bun is individual little buns. So then it's just like scaling and shaping and doing all that stuff. And bread is, I fell in love with bread. It's same. So fun. It's alive, you know, like it's very meditative, repetitive. So like those mornings were just like magical. And then the bun is like this small little space. And I was a teenager. So, you know, there's all the emotional roller coasters of being a teenager. And the bun was like my safe spot. And,
awesome.
You know, surrounded by just mostly women all the time. And Summer and Liz were kind of my like role models when I was a young girl. And I was like going through all my teenage, like love drama and all that stuff. And there's a pink awning at the bun. So in the morning, it's like down. And so it's just like almost this like pink, warm glow, like you're just getting hugged when you like walk in the morning. So I always had this just like very like dreamy picture of my bun summer times. And so then I left for college and I came back that first summer, did the bread again, left again. I think it was 2 years because then I transferred. I went to Idaho first and then I went to Montana. Did not switch up the Alaska vibe very much in my lower 48.
How close can I be to Alaska and not be in Alaska?
I definitely had it in my head. Like I was that kid who was like, I'm getting out of Alaska. Fairbanks is a black hole. Like when I was a teenager, and then then you leave and you're like, oh, actually it's pretty nice.
Yeah. It's got a lot of positives for sure.
But yeah, so then I ended up in Montana, and because the price of everything went up when I transferred, I was like, oh, I think I have to like stay down here and like work during school and stuff. So then I did not come back to the bun. So I was bun 14 to 19.
Oh man. Okay.
And then I ended up getting a job as a bread baker at the co-op in Bozeman as my like year round, not just summertime job while I was in school, and fell more in love with bread. And that was when I was like first doing the real baker's hours of starting work at 3 a.m.
Oh man. Yeah.
Which was absolute chaos for a college student.
Yeah.
I was insane. Like I look back on that and I'm like, what was I even doing? Because I was also working at the planetarium at the museum there in between classes. I was doing 3 a.m. bread shifts sometimes, and sometimes the nighttime bread shifts, which got off at like midnight.
Oh no.
And because I was insane, I was taking 20 credits every semester.
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to finish my degree. I was like, I need to be done.
Well, there's a different energy when you're a kid. Because I was just talking with Shelby, not just, but we talk about it all the time. She worked at a coffee hut at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. She had to be there. And I remember, and I worked like a swing shift or something. So I would get off at like 11. And it's like, I want to hang out until like 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah. We would sleep like 3 hours a night. And like the thought of doing that now. Like,
oh my God.
we just did the spring forward, daylight savings, and my butt has been kicked. Like it's brutal. I don't know. It's like 1 hour of my life has changed and I cannot handle this. It's totally thrown me off. So it's funny to hear. Yeah. But yeah, that's awesome. So bread and the bun really has kind of been like a big part of your life for a long time.
For a long time. Yeah.
That's sweet.
And then, so it was basically like 2 years where I wasn't at the bun. And I graduated and was kind of in this place of like, I'm so burnt out on school. I'm kind of thinking about going.
I can't imagine why.
Right?
It's a semester.
I was like, I need to take as many classes as possible. Like, who let me do that?
Yeah.
It's funny because I talk to the college students that I like employ now, and I tell them that and they're like, that's absolutely insane. My counselor would never let me do that. And I was like, you have a counselor?
Yeah, what's that?
No one ever like told me what to do.
Yeah.
It was like so nice.
What was your degree in?
Biology.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have a minor in genetics, which was part of the insanity. I was just really focused. I was like, wait, I need to fill the minor with something interesting. So,
yeah. Have you used this?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It didn't seem like it would, but maybe there was a little crossover I wasn't seeing.
Well, I mean, bread.
Yeah.
It's very biological.
It is very much alive. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. But, so I graduated. It was kind of like, oh, what do I do? I was just working at the bread bakery full time. I was kind of toying with the idea of grad school. I was taking one graduate class. So I graduated in 2013, worked all that summer, started taking the grad class. And that fall, the ladies from the Bun just emailed me out of nowhere like, hey, we're done. We're over it. Would you have any interest in buying the Bun?
Man.
And I almost felt like I had manifested it because
How old were you at this time?
I was 22.
Did you think at 22, and I know how I felt at 22, but were you like, this is way beyond what I'm doing, or this is like, oh yeah, I can totally handle this, like owning a business?
I'm kind of an insane person.
Yeah,
so
I'm getting that.
I my little memory of like the pink trailer and just the little feeling of being in there baking bread.
You're making me feel it. You're doing a good job. Yeah.
I was just like, I've always wanted it. And I knew that the ladies, Summer and Liz, when I'd been working there, they had been like, yeah, we kind of like have this plan where we're only going to do this for 5 years. And so I'd kind of known that. And in the back of my head, when I was in college, I was like, 5 years, man, that would be awesome if maybe I could be the next Bun person. But I never said that to them. And so it was just kind of wild. I got the email and I remember I was like at my college boyfriend's house and I was just like,
it's over. I'm moving.
Yeah, I was like, it's happening. Like, this is, I manifested this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And in my like youthful optimism, I never really questioned it. I was just like, yeah, I want that. Like, let's figure it out. And I was a broke college student with no money to my name. Yeah. So it was, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. I started like emailing them back and forth, just trying to like sort it out. And I think I was listening to, do you know the Huberman Lab?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was talking about optimism and how it's been studied and it can be like a genetic trait.
Oh,
like
okay.
there is actually a gene for,
I think you may have
for
it.
optimism. And I was like listening to that the other day and I was like, I think I might have that.
Yeah.
And I think that to be an entrepreneur, like sometimes you naturally have to like have that because if I rationally thought about what I was doing
True.
back then,
yeah,
I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So were you concerned at all, and maybe it came later as you're working through the process, were you concerned about profitability or any of the business side of it? Or was it just that, like you're saying, that memory of working there and the feelings you got, that's what you were chasing? What do you think?
It was entirely feelings.
Okay. That's cool to hear.
I remember I had like called my parents to like, because it's like, that's the classic thing you do when you're in college, right? It's like any question, you're like, Mom, what do you think about this? How do I do this? And they are definitely more rational and are like, this is a terrible idea. 80% of restaurants fail.
True. Probably
terrible,
higher.
Do not do it. And I'm just like, So ignoring that.
Pretend I didn't call you.
Yeah. Really, really hilarious. I think I've told more people about this over the years. I used to be a little embarrassed that I would not tell this story, but I'm like, you know what? It is funny. When I was in Bozeman, people call it Brosman. So many
classy.
men, like not a lot of women. I did not have many girlfriends there and was just so starved for female connection. I ended up getting talked into Mary Kay very briefly.
I like this.
And I'm not much of a makeup girl. And I literally, it's like my mind went blank. I was like, I have no idea how that happened, but I learned one thing from it. And I don't know if anybody listening to this is a Mary Kay person, so I don't want to like shade too much, but total scam, pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And they like, when they convince you to sign up, they're like, oh, because how the person makes money is they're like, you buy a bunch of like thousands of dollars of product from me and then you sell it to people. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Not really how it ends up.
You just buy a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, you just buy a bunch of stuff. And I'm a broke college student and I was like, I don't have money to do that. And they're like, oh no, listen, this is how you do it. You take, these are credit cards that are really easy to get. And then you do this. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So I've also gone on a financial literacy journey over the bun years. But what I took from that got me into the bun was when I bought the bun, the ladies were like, we'll just need like a small deposit. And then we can like owner finance where you will run the business. And then at the end of the season, when you have made money, you can make payments to us over a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, sounds like a great deal. I have no money for a deposit. What am I going to do? I am going to pull out 3 credit cards.
Oh, man.
And max out their cash advances. And
that's that Mary Kay learning.
Go for it. Yeah. And so that is what I did.
Oh, man.
And it took me a few years to, repair the credit, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah.
No one should start a business like that.
Yeah.
FYI.
Agreed.
Do not take that as any kind of financial advice.
Well, I think people do see people make it through, such as yourself. And well, for one, they probably, the person that did it either forgot or has not told them in the meantime, in those few years, how much extra stress you probably had because of those credit card payments hanging over you, your credit getting maybe trashed, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of people see that and they're like, well, this guy did it. And it's like, listen, really, again, odds are pretty much against you in everything you do in business you're going to fail. So it's like, you really want to stack the odds in your favor if possible. But anyways, no, you made it through. So that's great.
Yep. And that's the part of the optimism gene or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that like really pushed it through there.
And it's being young as well, I think.
Yes.
So I very similarly, I didn't work here or anything, but when I was 20 or 21, my grandpa, and this is why we moved to Arkansas, my grandpa's like, hey, I have a furniture store business, which obviously I knew, but I'm getting old. I want somebody to take over. None of the kids want it. And I'm like, all I've ever wanted to be was a business owner, an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I was like, let's do this. And he smartly said, why don't you come visit with my wife, who's never been to Arkansas? And we visited and like, now think on it for a year. I was like, all right. So we stayed for a year and we ultimately decided to go. And I always tell people, the biggest business lesson I learned right then, if you're going down to take over a business or buy a business, is look at the numbers. And so I had no idea. So we get there, turns out, and I hate to ever say anything bad about my grandpa, but it was not a profitable business.
He had never shown you the numbers.
He had not shown me the numbers.
He was just like, here's a business.
Well, this is like a very common thing with business owners. Like he had a bunch of stuff going on and he was, I would say pretty wealthy. He never worried about money or anything, but everything commingled. So I don't think he really knew. So once I started digging in and I was trying to separate things out from, he was really great with real estate and he owned a bunch of stuff there, which is part of the reason I'm a real estate agent now. But that was where most of his money was being made. And I'm like, listen, after 2 years, I was like, hey, Grandpa, you're literally paying to come work here 40 hours a week. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense. But anyways, it was awesome. Kind of sad, but not too sad. My grandpa passed away shortly after we closed the business down. And it was 2 years that I got to spend 8 hours a day with him. So it was really pretty special. But on the business side, if you just looked at it from that side, it was like, well, that was kind of stupid. There's really I literally couldn't afford to buy it because I would have to pay to run a business, which doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So,
and how old were you when you went for that?
Yeah, I was 21 when we moved down there. Yeah. So I was 23 when I ended up getting licensed in real estate. And that was, it was actually one of my clients. So again, if you look at everything in the long run, I love selling real estate. It's been my favorite thing I've ever done. And one of my clients from selling furniture was like, hey, you should sell real estate instead of furniture. And so who knows if I would have done it otherwise. So it's hard to look back and be like, hey, this was a bad thing to do. Just like the credit card thing. It's like, I'm really happy where I'm at now. And that was a big part of me getting here. So, whatever.
Yeah, I know, right? Like my perspective on it now, again, just the optimistic outlook is like, I learned a lot, I wouldn't know as much as I do about credit cards and how to properly use them now as if I hadn't done everything wrong. At first.
Yeah. Well, I think you can tell me this, but has your optimism remained Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, but you've also now know a few steps. You can stay optimistic, but not do stupid things. Like there's definitely a balance of that.
Yes. With age comes wisdom.
Oh, something like that.
Something. But yeah, I definitely feel like the older I get, the more I'm able to, think ahead more. Because when I first went into that, at first I was like, oh, I'll just kind of, it'll be like Summer and Liz, I'll have like a 5-year plan and I'll do it for 5 years and maybe I'll find the next person who wants to take over the bun and, and then I'll be able to be in Fairbanks in the summer. And because I had moved away and hadn't moved back yet, I was like, oh, I'm just going to be in Fairbanks in the summer. It's not like I'm actually moving back to Fairbanks. I'm only going to be in there in the summer. And then I'm going to just have my winters off and just go do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily the reality as I found out, but it was that first season coming back and doing my first season as the owner of the bun and just diving headfirst into the ocean of business ownership. It was a wild time. Yeah. And that same summer, my best friend, who grew up here as well, and we've known each other since 5th grade. She was getting married, and I was in her wedding. Oh, yeah. And we're all 22. And it was like every weekend is let's go out, let's go party, wedding party, we're coming, like this whole thing. And I was so overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh. And we're like planning all these wedding events, and her wedding was in July. So it was like,
okay, all summer, baby.
All summer.
Yeah.
So it was a wild time. It was fun. And then after the wedding, which was gorgeous, concluded, then my life got to like kind of relax like a little bit, but I was still, doing the bun constantly and figuring all of that out. And by the fall is really like a sweet spot of the bun season because it slows down. So it's not like as manic as usual. And the days start like normalizing too. So it's not like the 24-hour daylight, which I love in the summertime, especially for the baking, because, you're just like, I'm up at 3 a.m. It's light. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
Yeah. For those who don't know, so there's a lot of seasonal businesses here that are, because obviously our summers are very, very different than the winters. We have, again, almost all day sunlight. It never really gets dark. It gets dusky for like 3 hours at night. Yeah. The energy level, I think as you get older, you temper this a bit, but in reality, everybody when summer hits is like, it's just light all the time. It's so easy to keep going and going.
We're ready to go.
Military people commonly have to be told, like, you can't mow your lawn at like 2 a.m. because they'll be just doing their stuff. They're like, it's daylight out there. I'm going to go mow my lawn. And like, oh, maybe they didn't realize or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's very, very strange. It's super energizing, like coming into spring, and we're kind of getting in that zone right now where the days are getting longer and everybody's like ready to go.
And we're all starting to vibrate a little.
But then the fall, it's kind of like the end of I don't know. I was going to say there's some kind of drug run or something, but where you're just like, everyone's kind of exhausted and like, I'm kind of ready for winter now.
We're all coming down a little bit.
The jitters are shaking out. So, but having a business that closes in the winter is super common. So had the bun always been that way, or as long as you were involved with it?
Yep. As long as I've known about it since I was 14, it's run May through September. Though I think some of my there's hardcore regulars at the bun who have been coming ever since it first opened in 1987. So they love to tell me things I don't know about the bun. And I think that the original sisters would run until it snowed sometimes. I don't know if it was like every year that they did it, but they'd be like, we're just going to go until it snows. So I guess that would run into October sometimes. Yeah. Or
early September, like we've had a few times.
One season I ran until it snowed, not on purpose, but it did snow. And it was so funny. So we have this big wheel that we put out on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And so people may have seen it. And
it's a staple of the community.
It is.
You do not get rid of that.
Drive down College Road and look for the bun pun of the week or the day. Depends on how much energy I have to change it. But so I put that out there. I forget what year it was, but it was when Game of Thrones was really big.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Were you a Game of Thrones person?
I was not at the time it came out. And to be honest, I'm really not. My wife really liked watching it, and I suffered through with her. But yeah.
So, well, one of the things with Game of Thrones is winter is coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was when like a current Game of Thrones season was out. So I always do a bit of a countdown on the wheel sign towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And so that year I was like, I'm just going to be really ominous. And I'm putting up winter is coming in 10 days because that was my 10-day countdown to like my season being done.
Yeah.
And so the last day of the season, the wheel said winter is coming today.
Yeah.
And it literally started snowing.
Oh, no.
Like that day.
So it was your fault.
Like 7 a.m. And all my customers are like, are you a witch?
Yeah. You called it.
you called in the snow.
Do you see at the end of your season, do you see a big influx of folks like coming through to get your like last few days, or is it kind of?
Yeah. The way the bun goes is usually when we open, it's big. Like opening day, I gotta be prepared. There's no such thing as a soft opening really for me at this point. And then June, insane. Mm-hmm. July also, but I usually try to take advantage of the holidays. So like in May, 3-day weekend for Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. And then July, take a bit of time off for 4th of July. And then in August, the past few years, I've been going to Salmon Fest.
Oh, yeah.
And then all my employees are like, oh, we want to go too. So we just shut the bun down to go watch some music. And then August kind of like starts slowing down a little bit. A lot of students go back to school. So also my staff gets a little thin. So it's like both a little slower and more manageable, like business wise, but also I'm doing a lot more. So there's like the give and take there.
Right.
And then September is like really, really the wind down. But then that last week, because people know we're going to be gone all winter. Yeah. It gets busy. And the past few years, I've just coordinated my last day with the Equinox Marathon.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a big day in Fairbanks, the Equinox. So it's like the last day of the bun, the marathon. There's all sorts of stuff going on in town.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're very tied. That's something I've been thinking about with the weather or the nature around us because of how much I feel like in a big city that your air conditioning and heat and everything, and you're inside a lot, you're so much more disconnected and you're not worried too much about things. But this is the only place I've lived that I almost daily check the temperature, at least through the winter, where you're like, all right, what's it going to be? 10 below today. All right, 10 above the next day, so trying to figure out how to dress and stuff. So have you, and this may come into something where you have upcoming, but the seasonality of it, have you wanted to open through the winter? Has this been like kind of not feasible with the location you have, or like what's the reason it's seasonal?
So the reason it's seasonal is because the trailer is from the 60s and has no insulation.
That was my assumption, but I didn't want to say.
So it's very, very not winterized. And so connected to the weather, like in the summer with that trailer, I am checking the weather daily. Our business is very dependent on the weather. When it's sunny, we're busier. When it's raining, we're having a real slow day. Right. Because it's outside.
Yeah. That's probably why August is much slower for you too. Yeah, we get a lot of rain that month. Yep. Yeah.
August can get rainy. But then whenever there's a nice day in August, it's a good day for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's, that's nice. And I've always been like, oh my gosh. So now last summer was my 10th summer owning the bun.
Way to go.
A decade of buns.
Yeah.
So I had gone into it like originally been like, oh yeah, I'll have a 5-year plan. But then before I knew it, 5 years was done.
Don't talk to me about time.
Yeah. I know. I was just like, I did not plan anything else.
Yeah.
And it's like after that first summer, kind of circling back, I had planned on going back to Montana for the winter, and I ended up, meeting a bunch of people, because that's a beautiful thing about food service, is very like community oriented. So
especially where you're at, like that college area is, I don't know, I've got some buddies off of there. Yeah. But they're very cohesive, always talking to each other, business, shop and all that. So it's really cool.
And my regulars, I'm seeing the same people every morning all summer, and it's like, it's just this very familiar thing, and you start really getting drawn into the community, and I just started falling in love with Fairbanks again, and was just like, oh my gosh, this place is magical. In the fall, it starts getting dark enough that the aurora starts coming out, and waking up at 3 a.m., which is when it's actually dark in September. Yeah. Because it will still be fairly light, then you get to the equinox and it's like equalized.
I wonder, and this is maybe a stupid question, but with how low the angle of our sun is where we're at, I feel like dusk and dawn always feel like super long here. And maybe it's just my perception. Okay, it is. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's... there's civil twilight and nautical twilight. It goes through the ranges, and because the angle of the sun is so low, we stay in that twilight zone longer than the closer you get to the equinox. Those twilight zones are
pops out of the real fast, it seems.
The first time I went to Hawaii and actually watched the sunrise or the sunset, here you don't really watch the sunrise or the sunset. If you were to do that, you'd be sitting for hours. Yeah. Whereas because
it creeps sideways across. Yeah. Whereas people,
it's just like do do do.
Especially wintertime when it's high noon and it's always right in your eyes. No matter which way you're driving, it's always right there. It's I don't know how the sun is, north right now. But
it's because it just kind of goes on the horizon the whole day.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so that season, I just kind of met some wonderful Fairbanks people, and was going to bonfires in the fall, and people doing jam sessions in their little dry cabins and listening to music and being like, oh my gosh, this community is so wonderful. I don't really want to leave. So I kind of lingered way longer than I meant to. And I was living with my parents because I had no money still. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go back, because I left all my stuff in Montana in a storage unit.
You were really not committed.
I was really not committed. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, maybe I actually do just need to move back here. Yeah. And so then I finally pulled myself away in November. I lingered for quite a while. And then I fully moved back that next year.
Sweet. And this is after 5 years, you were saying? Or?
No, that was after the first year. And then once I got to 5 years, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't make any other plans. And then, because I'm kind of chaotic sometimes.
We're all picking it up. Don't worry.
Still hadn't made any plans. And people ask me oh, have you thought about going year round? Have you thought about brick and mortar? And I've always been like, no, I love my winters off because I go so hard in the summer. I kind of need the recovery time. Yeah. But then the older I get, the more I'm like, I can't really function off of 4 hours of sleep like I used to. Yeah. How can I make my business more sustainable in the long term, both for my physical and also mental well-being, and also another community aspect of if I can have a year-round business, I can have more sustainability and stability for my employees. Right. And I do have a lot of naturally seasonal employees with students who come and go. Right. But there are people who are like, man, if you were open year-round, I would totally be here. And I'm like, yeah, that would be nice.
We haven't really talked about the buns, but these warm, sweet, savory, that's a pretty good thing for wintertime. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's great in the summer, but it's I want a freaking cinnamon roll or something.
Right. Yeah. It's so there's baked goods and winter and coziness. It all goes together. So I'd been okay, do I really what would be the thing? And then I'd started thinking, so I'd been living in dry cabins. Here, I'll tie it into real estate for you real quick.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd been living in dry cabins, which was another part of the
Well, for those who don't know, tell them what a dry cabin is.
Oh, dry cabin means dry, no running water. I was hauling 5-gallon blue water jugs for drinking water, and you have an outhouse outside for
the fast way to say that. If anybody ever asks, now what I say is you poop at 40 below. Like that's what dry cabinets mean. So as long as you're good with that, you're going to be good with everything.
Yeah.
So
and man, does that get old after a while.
A little chilly on the buns.
There are some people who love it. And again, those are the type of people that love Fairbanks because they love a good sufferfest, the like type 2 fun kind of people.
Yeah, so that's me. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm a dry cabin guy. I always kind of thought I was. Now I have a family and things, and I don't, they don't want to do that with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always talk about type 2 fun. And it's like when you're really miserable at the worst, it's like, this is, after I get done with this, I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Yeah. So all the harsh things of our climate, those kind of people, they love that even more. It's like another benefit for them. It's like,
they love it. They love it.
But that's not you. It sounds like you're ready for a heated seat.
It was me. I'm
okay.
I was definitely, because I'm a outdoor person. I was a cross country skier, backcountry skier, rock climbing. So I love a good sufferfest.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, I think the older I get, like because I'm 32 now.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started,
where'd you graduate high school?
30, West Valley.
Oh, okay. Okay. 010? When, or no,
09.
09, okay.
So fine.
Okay. All right. We were both 10, so I was like, I don't know why we didn't meet you, but.
Yeah. Were you West Valley?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, we were North Pole.
You're North Pole. Oh.
Yeah. I get that a lot,
Yeah. But yeah, so dry cabin life, really fun for a while. And then I was like kind of getting over it and being like, okay, first sustainability idea of the bun and thinking long term, I was like, I need to buy property.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other problem I was having is I own these trailers that are the bun on the run and my storage trailer, and I'm living in dry cabins that have no property to park them. And so I'm every year like searching around whose property can I park my trailers on? Where can I put them in the old Kmart building, warm storage one year, finding all of these random things. And I'm like, I need more stability.
Right.
So I just was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I had gone through my financial literacy journey. I had fixed my credit. I had gotten things sorted out, and I was like, I am ready. Because I think the first time I had that idea, I just walked. It's like classic, the optimist thing. I'm just gonna do this, without really thinking about it. Walked into the bank for pre-qualification, and they were like, "Ooh,
seasonal money. We love seasonal workers."
Yeah. I don't know about this girl. I was like, Noted.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to learn everything I need. And then I took a year after that and
she walked in the bank and said, money, please.
Please. Yeah. Don't you want to give me money? And they're like, no, we actually don't. It's like, what? Okay. And then so I rehabbed my finances, got the credit card situation all sorted. So I guess that might have been longer than a year. I think it might have been 2 or 3 years from when I first got denied, essentially. Yeah. And so I really focused on that, the business so that I could grow my income and get it all sorted out. And then I have been in my house now for 1 calendar year.
Hey, congrats.
So I was able to do it. It was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because my pre-qualification was in the 165 zone, which is kind of trash realty in Fairbanks.
Yeah, anything under 200,000 is hard to get a loan for. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, so
especially a year ago, not much is
Yeah, it was. I luckily, because what year is it now? 2024. So it was 2022 that I closed.
Oh, okay.
So it was right before interest rates started going really haywire. So I got in at 5%.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So
it's really nice.
Really lucked out. I was literally on realtor.com and Zillow every day sending things to my real estate agent being
which wasn't me. I'm not going to hold it against you. No,
I didn't know you back then.
No, I'm joking.
But so it was wild. So it was Michelle Evans. I don't know if you know her.
She's awesome. Yeah.
She was great. She got to go on the trash real estate tour of Fairbanks with me, we looked at so many places because it was literally just every single thing in my price range. I was like, I want to see it.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot, and it really sucks. I was talking with Shelby about this. Is now with the interest rates where they're at, with the home prices where they're at, if you're looking for like a conventional 3-bed, 2-bath, like you're spending $2,500 a month.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, that is kind of crazy. And we're not talking like super nice houses. We're talking, they're just standard stuff. Yeah. So yeah. And then being in that price range is even tougher because there's foundation issues is probably the number one thing you saw. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're in the hills. You've got post-on pad foundations that need to be adjusted, and a lot of people that affects the price. And so if you need something at that price range, you're looking at adjustable foundations.
Yeah.
And people, you were probably more familiar living in a dry cabin, but I've had people come up and they're like, why does everything have foundation problems? And I was like, well, get to 350,000 you won't have to see it as much. But,
you're like permafrost.
It affects a lot. So
yeah.
I'm glad you found a spot though.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's 800 square feet.
Sweet.
2 stories. So it's like 400. So it's kind
small.
of like a tiny house.
Yeah.
But it's adorable. It definitely has a weird foundation.
Yeah. It's normal. We had, when we moved up here, I had 3 girls and my wife and me, of course, so 5. We had an 800 square foot cabin that we were living in, 2 bedrooms. That was tight for a good long time. But then you look back at it and you're like, again, I'm like, that mortgage was pretty nice though.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot less than what I pay now.
You're like, oh.
Did I mind it that bad? But
yeah,
so great. So you got some permanency there.
Yep. I put in a gravel pad. I can park my trailers now. And then once I got that sorted, I was like, okay, I have some stability now. I can think more about other things. And then part of me, when I was looking for a house, I was like, I want GU1 zoning, maybe, because maybe I could build like a little shed bakery.
So GU1 is general use 1, which is everything in the borough is zoned. So there's not like an unzoned spot unless you get out of the borough. So GU1 is basically like as wide open as you can get. So general use, anyways. Just in case people didn't know.
It would give me the option, if I wanted it, of building a like off-site bakery that I could get DEC certified and do some kind of like, I don't know, like once a month bakery pickup for people or like something like that. And so that was an idea I had, and I was like, okay, maybe that would be something, I don't know. But then also in this span of time, I met my current boyfriend and we started dating, love story. Yeah. He lives in a van.
That rosy red light started shining on you again. You were needing that bread.
Yeah, just like, oh, hello.
He was around. What's that pottery scene from the...
Oh, Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Isn't that...
But with bread. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen the movie, just that scene.
I know, same. But yeah, was a commercial fisherman. So he had the same kind of like seasonal lifestyle. He'd been doing the van life thing. And then he has been staying in Fairbanks, not van lifing it kind of because of me.
Yeah. Tying him down.
Yeah. And so we'd been in this kind of like, as we're, early on in dating, it's like, okay, is this long term? Is this not? Kind of like feeling each other out. And he is really enamored with the van life situation. And he has been, for the past couple of years, trying to figure out a way to make the van life a little bit bigger so we could both fit in it.
It's called a house.
Yeah, right? I know. It's a house, actually. I bought that.
We have one.
But so he got like a box truck, like a U-Haul box.
Oh, nice.
And he's still like planning on working it. But so then it kind of like shifted my idea for a minute to be like, okay, maybe we keep it seasonal. And then when he does the box truck, then we're here in the summer and we go live van life in the winter. But then just this past October, we were on a rock climbing trip in the Red River Gorge in Kentucky. Gorgeous spot.
Oh, okay.
And I just got a text from a former employee being like, hey, we heard that Sunshine Health is moving out of this building. And, because I'm always just like, mind dumping essentially a little bit on my employees at work. Sometimes we're all just in there gossiping, talking
it's
about
so
life.
Important, though. Yeah, it's just like you were saying, you've called this thing into existence. That's like really part of it. When I don't remember where I heard this, but I try to do as much as possible, is people ask you how you're doing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, tell them like if you have a need or something. It's like, hey, I'm doing great, but I've really been looking for this thing or whatever, not like for purchase, but you know what I'm saying? And it always gets people thinking, because everybody wants to help. It's just like a natural thing. Where you're like, I wish we had a permanent location. And everyone's like, who would I know? And then so it comes back to him. So anyways, very
exactly.
cool.
Fairbanks is a huge word of mouth town. I think maybe even more so than other places. I'm not sure, but it definitely is.
Listen, we can say whatever we want on here.
Right.
We're totally, it's like we do it. It's the best place for word of mouth, everybody. It's been proven.
It is. Facts. But yeah, so my employees kind of knew that I'd been toying with the idea like, if the right thing kind of popped up, maybe that would be a thing, And so she was like, hey, heard through the grapevine, and she was working at Enchanted Forest Toys.
Oh, love that place.
Really cool store.
Oh, man. We got to get her on here, actually.
Yeah.
It's such a fun, like, I don't know, it reminds me of a library, kind of, and they have books, but like, the shelves are packed. It's really cozy and tight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Gulliver's. It's like all the winding bookshelves and kind of things everywhere.
Yeah, it's well named. It's like, evokes that feeling.
Yeah, it's like really cool. And yeah, you should totally get her on here because
be sweet.
She was telling me, because this whole thing kind of started because we got in touch because it's the same landlord owns that. Right. And I think he had kind of tossed the idea at her originally. And she had been kind of like, I don't know, that might be too much space. But then they texted me being like, we were kind of daydreaming about like how cute that would be if like we were downstairs, you were upstairs, but like also we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that is an intriguing idea.
Yeah.
And so I did vaguely know the landlord because he comes to the Bun.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just texted him. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot my shot a little bit and be like, in my mind, it's never a bad thing to just get more information about an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who get too nervous to ask for things sometimes. And so that is something I've tried to train in myself is more information is never bad. So just ask a question. And so that's what I did. I was like, hey, I heard. And he was like, oh my gosh, how have so many people heard about this thing? He was like, he got a little nervous, I think. But he was like, well, I'm talking to this pottery studio. They're really interested in the building. I think that she had told me that she was interested in a cafe. So hold your horses. Let me get my whole thing, sorted out, and we'll see. Like, I can put you guys in contact if she wants to. I'm like, okay, cool. And me and Nathaniel is my boyfriend. We're down in Kentucky, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know. And he's just like, what is happening? Like, I thought we were going to do van life. And I'm like,
you're wrong.
Well, we still can. It'll just be, maybe another couple of years.
Right.
But also nothing was certain then. And then Bill did put me in touch with Tammy, who is the owner of Raven City Studios. And she was going to take on the building, and she did want a cafe. And she was like, I, at first, was kind of thinking I would just, set something up. But, like, I haven't done any food service
that's a big
before,
deal.
And it's like a whole different thing. And, if you're interested and you obviously have business and customer base, and if you want to go for it, it could be a match made in heaven. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited about this idea. And so it was just another one of those things I did think about it, but like, I wanted it more than I was thinking about it.
Wanted it more than any rational thought could overcome.
Yeah. You know, so I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to figure out how to set up an actual indoor space. And I had been craving some newness too, because I've been doing the bun for 10 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
And you're young. Yeah, it's a long time for anybody to do something for 10 years, you know? Yeah.
And I love the bun, obviously.
Right.
And it's not going anywhere. The bun will still be the same in the summer, doing the same things. But I'd been wanting more avenue for like a little bit more creative expression, because the bun, it's like
an establishment.
People want what they want. You know, it's like I can make something fun and new, and like people will try it out. But in general, my bun customers are like, I want my bun. I want my monster cookie. I want my coffee with my cream, and I want my sandwich the way I always get it. And that is my order.
Yeah. And that's special too. Like,
and that is amazing. And I absolutely love it. And so I'm like, like the bun is the bun. And people would riot if I tried to, you know, switch it up.
We're bringing this place down.
Like, no. So, the year-round thing in my head is a way to make it more sustainable, because I can still have the bun in the summer.
Right.
I can free up a little bit of space, because I'll have more space to bake at the cafe. Because the bun is limited in the baking space. Like
I was wondering about that. Yeah,
it's all in that trailer. So we are baking at 3 a.m. We are baking till like midnight, because you can't. It's like the space is the limiting factor.
Right. So your batches can only be so big.
Yeah.
So you have to stack them instead of being able to do it all at once.
Yeah. When we were getting, we were getting to the point the past couple of years where we were getting so busy that I could not make enough.
That's product. A good place to be.
Yeah, which is a good place to be. But then it just feels bad towards the end of the day when you've like ran out of everything and you don't have the space to be like making more, also the time to make more like right then.
Right.
And people are coming up to the window because the bun is such an establishment. Yeah. I'm not the type of person to close early. Like if we have, like we'll still have coffee, we have drinks, and we'll have like cookies left. But it's like sometimes we sell out of bread. We've sold out of buns. We've sold out of muffins. We've sold out of scones. Like we've sold out of all these things. And people come up at like, because we close at 4:00. People come at 2 sometimes. We'll have sold out of like all the sandwich bread and everything. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but we have a cookie, but I don't want to close at 2 because then, you know, people will leave the Google review being like,
they're closed.
Unreliable hours.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. Yeah.
So it's like, oh gosh. So this way I'm like, oh my gosh, I can have the space to make enough bread to last the whole day, and make enough cookies to last the whole day.
That'd be awesome.
And, you know, and we're so close. The cafe is directly across the street.
I was going to say, yeah, you couldn't be any closer.
No, right.
You could have bought Beaver Sports, I guess, and had a really big cafe.
What is it? 6 million? No, they lowered it. 3 million?
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if that includes the merchandise. It's something.
I know.
Yeah.
Someone who loves the bun should buy Beaver Sports, because I want to be grandfathered into the parking lot.
Yeah. I think it's very cohesive. It's like, for one, totally like how often is there parking lot ever going to be like packed full? And it's like, hey, you know, you're at the bun, you go to Beaver Sports or vice versa. Yeah.
Beaver Sports and the bun has such a symbiotic relationship in the summer. Like, I don't want it to go anywhere.
No, it's awesome.
Because, it is totally like the perfect little thing. Like you come up, you're going to wait for your sandwich. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to go peruse Beaver Sports real quick. So I think that they enjoy it as much as I do.
Exactly. So I was thinking, because I knew a little bit about this, I was thinking a second location, but really this is going to be something obviously very similar, but a very different expression of the bun, you could say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been telling people I'm calling it bun adjacent.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So the cafe will be called House of the Rising Bun,
which I love. That's
you
awesome.
Got to keep the bun puns going.
Yeah. Just couldn't help yourself.
Yeah, cannot. And it will, I think, because when I was puzzle piecing it together, I was like, okay, it cannot be a copy and paste of the bun because we are literally across the street.
Right.
And it can't be too similar because it doesn't make sense, right? So it will be similar because I do want the customers who love the bun to want to come to the house of the Rising Bun as well.
Right.
So the idea I had was it will be like bun expanded and bun,
risen. I'm trying to think of some more puns here.
Right.
Gosh.
It'll be like the bun expanded menu, the bun like fun flavors. We have fun flavors at the bun.
Yeah.
Original too, but so I was like, okay, obviously we have to have cinnamon buns.
Right.
But the bun cinnamon bun, I think I'm keeping at the bun trailer all summer. Then in the winter, it can make an appearance. But part of the magic of the bun cinnamon bun, I think, is that you don't get it all year.
Yeah.
So I think I still have to, play a little withholding with it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you probably didn't, but if we had Sassy Scoops, Sarah from Sassy Scoops on here. And
I listened to her episode.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. So her whole thing is, it's not, I don't know if she planned this, but what it has become is it's a specialty flavor always. Like you may get the same flavor again, or you may never see it again kind of thing. It's like whatever she's feeling, she's experimenting literally every week. I went in there after that and I was like, hey, what do you got left? And it was like so many options. I was like, how are you making so many different ice cream options every week? They were all good, of course. But so that's kind of an interesting, different idea where it's like, again, it's like if you are excited about this thing, it's like, hey, we don't know when it's coming back kind of deal. It gives that a little mystique. Right.
It's like people want it more. So I'm going to have buns at the house of the Rising Bun.
I'm shocked.
Obviously. And I've been developing some fun flavors. So I think one of the flagship recipes that I am going to make. And part of me had been like, oh, I'm going to make them and bring them into you guys. I totally did not have time.
We can redo this. I was really looking forward to buns.
Oh, yes. Once the cafe is open, have me on again. I'll bring you a whole charcuterie board of buns.
No, we'll certainly get out there. Do you have an opening date yet?
No, not yet. Okay. Hoping April.
Okay.
So really, I'm waiting. I need to get a bunch of the electric work reconfigured in there because I'm adding more equipment. It's been this whole puzzle to fit together. So that's a thing that still has to happen. I've just been getting in there to start decorating and everything because Tammy had the whole building repainted and new flooring put in.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's looking fresh. So that took a while too. From when Sunshine moved out, because I think they moved out in November or something. And then it took a while to get the process started on the flooring and the painting, and then everything, of course, in Fairbanks takes longer than you think it will.
Yeah.
So there's been that. And then I started ordering equipment and everything comes from out of state. It's been a whole process.
Are you doing this on credit cards again?
Oh, yes, of course.
No.
You
found a better way?
Yes, for the points and then immediately paying them off. So you pay no interest.
Yeah, look at you. It's Wendy Ramsey.
I know, right? I always give my girls the credit card talk when they're teenagers at the bun. So many of the youths terrified of credit cards, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I try to educate them so they never make the same mistakes I did. I'm you should get one, but use it like a debit card.
I don't want to be too harsh, but whoever the lady was that told you to get Mary Kay on credit cards.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is really sucky.
That is such a scam. And they're playing on your emotions too at the time, because that was
You're gonna be rich. It's gonna be great. It's easy. Look at me.
Yeah, and for me, and it was totally searching for community. And they're they promise this whole little sisterhood kind of thing, and it's not that. Maybe it is for some people, but it's not. It's just not.
Yeah, I think there are successful people in those types of businesses. but they are like, I don't think people realize how infinitesimally small that person is.
Yeah.
And again, it's not selling Mary Kay to people. It's selling Mary Kay to the people under you that think they're going to sell it to people.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that's the whole, and again, obviously people know how that works, but
yeah.
So for you on the flip side to be like, hey, you should pay your credit cards off or don't get them if you can't handle that is way better. So yeah.
Yeah. I try to pass the knowledge on now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so getting everything set up, it's been like a whole new experience. It's really fun. I'm really excited to have more kind of creative control because the bun, of course, I do have control of, but it has been running the way it's been running since 1987.
Yeah.
And, so people expect what they expect.
Mm-hmm.
So circling back to the flagship bun of the House of the Rising Bun, my idea is to have a variety of cinnamon buns that are not necessarily your regular cinnamon bun.
Okay.
So I have a orange cardamom bun that I'm very excited about. And the frosting for it is also, it's like orange mascarpone. Ooh. So mascarpone's like a little lighter than cream cheese. And it kind of tastes like a orange creamsicle pillow.
Yeah. That's one of the greatest desserts of all time is orange creamsicles. So,
yes.
Yeah. No, this is awesome.
So
are you feeling a little bit more like revitalized? And like you said, I love like the traditional, people know what to expect with the bun, but now being able to experiment and do a bunch of different things, is this like pretty exciting for you? Like kind of revitalizing that?
Oh yeah, it's very exciting. I'm like, ooh, because when I had more energy and it was like maybe also a little less busy at the bun, I used to do a fun flavor cinnamon roll every Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So we'd kind of switch it up. Like I did banana peanut butter cinnamon rolls and chocolate roll. Well, we have a chocolate roll on the menu at all times that looks like a croissant, but it's not. But like just different flavors, blueberry, raspberry. We did like a Danish cream cheese filling one. But then the blueberry cinnamon rolls really caught on and people just kept asking for them again and again.
Yeah.
So now every Saturday I always have just blueberry cinnamon rolls and the regular cinnamon rolls. So we're saying
cinnamon rolls. Do they all have cinnamon in them still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the blueberry cinnamon rolls have cinnamon. The regular cinnamon rolls have cinnamon.
I'm shocked.
And then it's funny too because it's the bun, right? So I kind of switch my vocabulary back and forth between calling them cinnamon buns and calling them cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the orange cardamom though, it's cardamom instead.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Of cinnamon.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
But what do you call it? Because it's like a roll. If you just say a roll, that sounds like a hoagie roll or something.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little tricky. Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's so funny the way people like talk about baked goods sometimes, because I do have like, some older gentleman that will come in and he'll call everything a muffin.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, I want one of those muffins. And you're like, the muffin? We're like, that muffin. And you're like, the bun. Yeah, that muffin. And you're like, okay. Not a muffin.
Not a muffin.
But you know what? You can call it a muffin.
Hey, as long as you're paying.
Yeah.
No, this is awesome, though. So you're going to go year-round with the House of the Rising Bun.
Yep, year-round. Another exciting thing, we're going to have an espresso machine because Sweet. Fairbanks is very espresso obsessed. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I could have a sit-down place without one. And that will be a new venture for me. Mm-hmm. I have never baristaed, unlike 95% of Fairbanks. Apparently.
Yeah, I know. The coffee huts here, we brought it up before. This has got to be the highest per capita of coffee hut.
It has to be.
Yeah, it is. Again, we can say whatever we want here.
Facts.
Yet again. Another thing we're winning at.
Yeah. It's truly insane how many coffee huts there are here. Mm-hmm. That was one big thing when I moved out of state. I was like, oh, there's no coffee hut.
Oh, yeah. And down south, they were doing them, but they were not successful. It wasn't like, hey, they just haven't figured this thing out yet. And maybe it's the colder weather, like people not wanting to get out of their cars or whatever it is, but you'd have one in a town of the size of Fairbanks. Yeah. And they'd be kind of struggling. It's like, oh man, we have 50 of them.
Yeah. It's also, I think there's that one, I forget the name of it. There's a chain. Is it I want to say Dutch Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Is that
You mean
that
down
right?
south? Or?
Yeah, down south.
I don't know.
I forget. There's like one chain that does it, and then like there's Starbucks drive-thrus. And I think in the lower 48, people are a lot more into the like big brand name stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like so those kind of are the ones that exist, and then nobody kind of pops up the like mom and pop one.
Right. And where we were, people didn't make a lot of money. So you're not like, if you can go to a gas station and get like a 75-cent coffee, that's where they're probably going to get it, as opposed to spending, you know, down there, maybe it would be $3.50 for a coffee. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can get a, you know, rice and beans for that.
Right. So, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
It is a little crazy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really drink coffee, but I cannot imagine going and spending like $3.50 to $6 every single day on a drink. I mean, hey, if you do it, that's good. Yeah. It's stimulating the economy. So thank you.
Yes, sure definitely. I know. I'm excited to have my own espresso machine.
That's going to be sweet.
Because I'm like, ooh, whenever I have the hankering to do a treat myself, I can just treat myself at my own cafe.
So yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't really drink coffee at all, but any espresso like content on Instagram and things like that, I just love it.
Huge.
I love watching it.
Yes.
I don't like their little whisks they have and they tamp things down.
I know, it's so relaxing.
I know. It's like I don't want to drink that at all, but I love watching it. So.
I'm excited to learn it all. And I was talking to Sarah, who owns Little Owl Cafe.
Oh, okay.
I was telling her that was the big gap in my resume, and she was like, "Oh, I have a little coffee lab. You know, you can come. I'll teach you." So I'm excited. Nice. I'm gonna, you know, email her, be like, hey, teach me.
Yeah.
I will be your Padawan.
That's sweet.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. I have some employees that were baristas, so they're like, oh, we'll teach you everything. So that will be cool. I really want to do affogatos.
Ooh.
Do you know what those are?
I actually do, but now that you've said them, I've forgotten. So can you tell me?
It's ice cream. Okay. Oh, I think the super traditional, because it's Italian, would be gelato, right?
Okay.
So you do like a scoop of ice cream and then pour the espresso shot straight on top.
Nice.
And then I was listening to your episode with the Sassy Scoops lady. What's her name again?
Sarah. Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I should talk to that girl and be like, hey, maybe I could get some ice cream and do affogatos.
For sure.
Because that would be really fun. And so we're going to have espresso. And then have you been to the Bun in the summer?
I've not. I'm really sad about this.
Yes,
yeah. So I know. I'm very excited too. The more I learn. For sure.
It is very funny because the Bun is very particular. Like when I first met Nathaniel, one of his friends from fishing, like out in Bristol Bay, is from here, and he had told him. Like he was like, oh, I met the girl that owns the Bun. And
you
he was
lucky
like,
dog.
And he was like, oh, the Bun. And he was like, let me tell you about the Bun, because Nathaniel hadn't been there.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I've tried to get a sandwich there so many times, and I keep messing it up, because we do not start sandwiches until 10:30 because we bake all the bread fresh every morning. So the bread just simply isn't out of the oven until 10:30. There's like no sandwiches until 10:30. And then, like I said, when we've gotten busy, sometimes the bread sells out. So he's like, I've gone before 10:30 and they're like, no sandwiches. And he was like, and then I got there too late and there were no sandwiches. He was like, so you got to time it right.
You got to know just when to come.
You got to know when to come. And I'm like, yep. Oh, also Saturdays, no sandwiches.
No sandwiches.
We do calzones, but not pizza calzones. They're like a spinach, ricotta, herb and cheese filling.
Oh yeah,
calzone.
I'm with that.
And they also don't start till 10:30 because we bake them.
Do you point at people like that? That may be part of your problem.
No sandwiches.
People really don't like that.
Like, hey, lady.
No, it's awesome. No, I'm interviewing a lot of people. So Sarah was Sassy Scoops. I never had Sassy Scoops before, and it's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody like I've came to high school here. I was not born and raised here, but I was born in Alaska and I've lived like around. But there's like so many things that I'm almost a tourist like all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like the big sign, we just recently went to the Love Alaska sign.
Oh yeah, across from Pikes.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody, it was probably 6 months ago. And I'm like, I have no idea where that's at. And she's like, everyone takes a picture there. I was like, I know, I've lived here for years. So I finally went to it and I was like, oh, I've 100% been here. How have I never seen this sign?
Yeah.
So anyways, I feel bad that I've not been to the Bun. I will rectify that as soon as possible.
Come to the Bun.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll let you know when opening day is.
I'll wait till 10:30 for my sandwich. Be right there there on the money.
Then on opening day, you got to be there early because then we will sell out. Well, maybe not now that I have a little expanded space. So
that's awesome.
So the menu design at the Bun essentially is we have like the classic combos like turkey provolone, beef and cheddar, ham and Swiss, salami cheddar. But really it's a make your own sandwich however you want it.
Yeah.
Choose your bread. We do a sourdough or a whole wheat. So we always have sourdough, and then whole wheat changes flavor daily, except on Fridays. It's always rye bread because our special sandwich is a Reuben on Fridays.
On Fridays.
Mm-hmm. Reuben Friday is a big one. That's one thing that people are like, are you going to do the Reubens at the cafe? And I'm like, ooh, I might have to hold them out for the Bun only in the summer, and then in the winter I can do
This
Reubens.
is going to be a pretty delicate dance for you these first few years.
It's going to be like tiptoeing around, see what people think. But so it's like, kind of create your own sandwich.
Yeah.
And then the Raven City studio, who is going to be downstairs to the cafe, is paint your own pottery. So I've now been calling it paint your own sandwich.
Yeah.
So the cafe.
Those are going to go, we didn't talk about that. I feel like that's going to go really well together.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Because they're like painting mugs and stuff up there too. It's like, really cohesive.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun because the way the building is set up, we just kind of have to coordinate our hours.
Yeah.
Because all the bathrooms are up in the cafe. So, I always have to be open if she's, it's like all this stuff going on. But we're kind of opening it up so that, if people who are doing crafts downstairs, they can obviously bring their food down there. But vice versa, if people want to grab a craft from downstairs and come hang out upstairs, they can do that too. But so the menu at the cafe will kind of be similar to the paint your own sandwich at the Bun. But it'll be expanded in the way that I am hoping to have. It'll not just be choose your bread. It'll be choose your base: salad, a wrap, bread, or I still have to figure out all the logistics on some of these things, or flatbread, and then kind of go from there. And I will have set choices and then the option to paint your own.
Yeah.
So the set choices I'm going to have are pulling from my daily specials at the Bun.
Gotcha.
So we always have a daily special at the Bun in the summer. Monday is always a meat sandwich, but whatever. Like I'm always making stuff up.
Yeah.
Tuesdays is always a vegetarian sandwich. Wednesdays, always chicken salad.
Oh yeah.
Thursday, another usually meat, but kind of whatever I make up. Friday is the Reuben, always.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of pull some of the, favorites from those to be like set choices at the cafe. And then people can go from that list of ingredients for whatever, if they want to switch it up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to carry all the lunch meat at the cafe, I think. Just because I don't want it to be so similar to the Bun.
Yeah.
And then it might be like...
How come, you probably have a good answer. How come you wouldn't just move completely to this area, to this cafe? Why keep the two?
Because the people would riot. The Bun is iconic.
It really is.
So,
Stupid question. Silly me.
It would be... And I think maybe part of me too is like, it's the nostalgia factor of the... warm little trailer in the parking lot. I think that it's such a staple of that little corner of town that it would be kind of silly for me to just fully move it over.
Right.
Though, this way, if I'm like, how public is this interview? my only concern of the Beaver Sports trying to sell is there's a little what's going to happen? If somebody say he really, really decides that he's just done and really wants to retire, and a developer bought that property instead of someone who wanted to continue the Beaver Sports business, what happens to my corner of the parking lot,
Right.
So there's always been that in the back of my mind too, which is another reason to have the stability of a year-round location.
Right.
And then, so if something like that were to happen, I would totally just have the bun menu.
Yeah, you kind of be forced to at that point, I guess. Yeah, for sure.
So there's like hedging of the bets in there a little bit.
Well, it's interesting too. I think you're coming at it opposite of what a lot of cafes usually start. It seems like to me the coffee is the star of most cafes, and then they have the paninis or whatever the Starbucks copy, kind of like do on the side, and they can be good, of course, but you're coming at it very much the bun obviously first, and then the coffee is like, hey, this is just a compliment to the
it's very food forward, not coffee forward of the coffee shop vibes.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm so excited. This is going to be really cool. So we're thinking sometime in April. You'll have to contact me when you get a firm date, and we'll make opening day huge, which probably would be anyways. But opening a month and year will make it all huge. So that'll be cool. So you've been traveling before we go. You've been traveling in the winters until then, or has that been since the boyfriend kind of you travel more? Like, what do you do in the winters?
Well, generally? In the winters, so there was that first year I went back to Montana, and then I was here pretty solidly. I was assistant coaching the West Valley cross country ski team for quite a few years. I jokingly called it my bun farm because a lot of my employees ended up coming from the ski team. Because I just like
warming them up.
I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Coach Wendy. Also, I own the bun. If you want a summer job.
Aren't I so fun?
Yeah.
So, it's a bait and switch. Right. Get in there and it's a sweaty, hard job.
I know. It's so funny because like Beaver Sports too, because Greg was the ski coach for a long time. He was my ski coach in high school, actually.
Yeah.
So me and Greg go way back.
There's that word of mouth though. Like you're in the parking lot and now you're doing, or you were at least doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the ski team connection between the Bun and Beaver Sports is also quite strong. There's a lot of ski team members working at both Beaver Sports and the Bun.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was doing that and then trying to get out when I could. I love traveling. So I went to Ireland and Iceland one year in the winter.
Oh, nice.
My sister was teaching English in Korea, so I got to visit Korea a couple times.
There's a lot of good food.
So good. Oh my gosh. Also, Korea, bakery obsessed.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I've seen like the puffy bread or something. I don't know if that's like a common, maybe that's Japan.
No, it's like a different style. It's almost like French bakery style in Asia. They're like really into like light and fluffy and like soft textures and kind of like more minimalistic flavors too. But then like fruit flavors are really awesome over there because growing up in Alaska, we have terrible fruit.
Oh my gosh. Of all the positivity I give, like you got to give me this one thing. The fruit up here just tastes like trash almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you go down south and you're like, oh my God, these oranges, this apple, like everything doesn't taste like water that's slightly bitter, or something. Yeah. Yeah. That's the one sad bit, I have to say.
Yeah. After the first year I had the Bun, I went on my first trip, like real vacation that wasn't just rock climbing on spring break in college.
Yeah.
And I went to Hawaii and Korea because my sister was in Korea. Yeah. And my mind was blown just eating avocado and fruit. I was like, wow, there's a whole other world out here.
Well, one thing I've noticed, I've always wanted to go to Korea and Japan. My first job, I worked at the Country Cafe in North Pole, actually, when I was 14. And the owner of that is a Korean lady. And they have like bulgogi and stuff on the menu, which is cool. It's everything else is very Western. And then they have bulgogi and like a few other items.
That's awesome.
And oh my gosh, I just like fell in love.
Is that still?
I believe it is.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I haven't been back there in a while. Probably should. But yeah, no, it was an awesome place to work. And she would make these, not that weren't on the menu, but she just loved, like, I was this big white kid that, was in the kitchen with them. And she's like, oh, try this. Like, and it was, anyway, so I've always, ever since then, wanted to go. But something I've noticed, at least from the videos I've been watching of the areas, the food is so aesthetically pleasing.
So pretty.
Come on. Like the way they package things, it's like almost cartoonish.
Oh my gosh. The packaging in Korea, I'm like, why can't we have nice things in America? Like even just like perforated bags, like opening like little drink sticks with like matcha powder or something, the easiest tear open. Whereas like you buy something here and I feel like my hands are the weakest things in the world trying to like open a package.
That might be a you problem.
I'm supposed to have strong fingers. I'm a climber.
Yeah.
And a baker.
I was going to say your shoulders should just be up past your ears. All that kneading.
It's ridiculous.
We didn't talk about kneading. So I love kneading. So I, for a very short time, probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months, was making a sourdough bread, and I got like really obsessed. And I've talked about this before. Anytime I do anything, I get obsessed for a very short period, and I think I'm going pro. I'm going to make this a business, whatever. It always happens this way.
Oh yeah.
Sourdough is one of those. And so I was making like 2 loaves a day and loved it. And anyways, just recently, I hadn't done it in a long time. That was years ago. Made pizza dough, and I was just kneading that dough. And it's like, come on, something about the kneading. There's something, but you have to be in the right mindset. If you're in a hurry, it's no fun. But if you're just there to be there and need that thing, like it's like, I could just go forever. I'm just whatever, I'm activating that gluten, whatever it is.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
I'm always slapping the dough pile.
Again, that might just be a you thing. It's very, put 2 together. No reason.
I know. I really need to get on the bun TikTok. No,
you should. You should.
Just me slapping dough. No,
we could have a bunch of B-roll instead of us talking. It would just be bun slapping the entire time. Flour always puffing up just right.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, I'm super jazzed. This has been a ton of fun. This is going to start sounding like an insult, but don't worry, it's going to come around to a compliment.
Okay.
So I realized, I looked back at the last few podcasts I've done. I was like, oh, almost every single one have been food. And I was like, am I going to run out of things to say? And I've never met you before, so it wasn't anything about you, but I was like, I just don't know. Like, we'll just get to talking. And then when was it? Like, I think right when we started talking about the villages, and you had, for one, you have a ton of energy, which is great, but all the different things, I'm like, the people are so freaking interesting. And not just you're very interesting, which is great. You. But every time I kind of worry, is like, are we gonna have something to talk about? And everybody that comes in here has so many interesting things, and it's always different than what I expected. We kind of hardly talked about, besides saying buns a lot.
Yeah.
It's more like the things surrounding it. So anyways, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else? I think the big opening is probably your big thing coming up next, I assume.
I wish I had an exact date.
That's okay.
People can watch my Instagrams and Facebooks. Fairbanks is one of the rare places that's still on Facebook.
Yeah.
For those announcements when they come. But,
and we'll have all your handles and stuff in the description wherever people are watching this. So, they'll have to stay tuned. Yeah. And I guess that is it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I'll see you. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more content from AK Blake, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the handles AK Blake. Or if you want to listen to more podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, it's there, Fairbanks year-round. You may or may not know, I am a local real estate agent here in Fairbanks with the Summit Realty Group. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to move to the area, you already live in the area, or you're looking to invest further into real estate in the area, you can reach me. Probably the best will be either my website, akblake.com, my email, blake@akblake.com, or my phone number is probably the fastest, 907-651-8356. You can call or text. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.